Afternoon, Cherries fans, and welcome to this latest opposition preview show here on Up the Cherries in all departments. Now, before I do welcome on my special guest, here's a bit about our sponsors, Dental on the Bank. To find out what they can do for you, visit dentalonthebanks.co.uk. Now, we've had Mark Housey on here, as you can probably see as well. That means only one thing, VAR. We have the visit from Spurs. A Spurs team who you can rightly say they're one of the top six. But are we playing them at the worst possible time for them? It is a pleasure to welcome onto the show Harry from Hotspur TV. Afternoon, Harry. How are you?
Hey, good you?
Yeah, all good, all good. And thank you so much for coming on this opposition preview show. So, we're both coming off, well, in the Premier League at least, off the back of defeats. Of course, I think we've done to death on this channel the VAR decisions. We even
Yeah.
had Mark Housey on to discuss those.
Right.
But of course, you had Newcastle and, of course, Eddie Howe visit the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And to be honest, I still can't get used to it. You know, I still class it as White Hart Lane. Would you agree?
Well, I think from outsiders, I can see why they say that, but when you go there, it's very different. So I've been going to Tottenham since I was a kid, and since like the 90s, late 90s, let's say. And I just remember White Hart Lane as being a smaller stadium. Like the different smell, I guess.
Yeah.
I still don't feel like I'm. I still don't feel like I'm going to like. I'm going to a football stadium, but it doesn't feel to me as though it's like home as such. And I think it's mainly to do with the atmosphere and just the way the club is just put forward to us now compared to before, maybe. Yeah. So I'm not. I still miss the old White Hart Lane. I've got to be honest with you.
No, fair
Yeah.
enough. And you know what? I think it was an iconic stadium, but also this new stadium is, well, it's easily the best in the country.
I can't disagree with that.
It's an outstanding stadium. So yeah, hopefully Mr. Foley is sat here watching this and will think, right, okay, let's build maybe on a smaller scale, mind. You know, we don't
Yeah.
need it that big, but use that as the blueprint. Don't use that bloody thing down the road at St Mary's.
Oh no, it's better than the Emirates. I can
Yeah.
guarantee that.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah,
it's
definitely.
weird you say that because I speak a lot to I'm friends with a lot of Arsenal fans actually. Not on here, not on channels or anything, and they miss the old Highbury more than like the new stadium. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's another iconic stadium, isn't it? But getting back to it, of
yeah.
course, you didn't have particularly a very good result against Newcastle, and of course, former manager Eddie Howe. Go on, tell us what the story was of that game.
Well, Lloris decided to run out of goal. and do something really stupid.
Yep.
And then Newcastle scored, and then I think they scored quite soon after. And then after that, we just couldn't get back into the game. I don't know if you know, but Richarlison and Kulusevski are both out for us. So, and they'll be out of Saturday as well, which you'll probably be happy about. So we don't really have many like game changers or players to change the game really to come on. And he brought on Brian Hill. He brought on I think he changed the wing backs as well. I think Sessegnon came on a bit later on. He tried to do something, but after the goal, even we kind of didn't create anything much after that. So we scored the goal to make it 2-1, but even after that, we didn't really create enough. I think creativity is our main issue at Tottenham right now. When Kulusevski especially is out, it's just Kane really creating things.
Yeah.
You do have Perisic putting in crosses, but even his crosses on Wednesday were like really bad, which is very surprising because that's meant to be a strong suit. But yeah, Newcastle also kind of like a bogey team for us. We lose them quite a lot.
Do you?
Yeah.
So
I hate playing them. I actually hate playing Newcastle.
It might not be the Eddie Howe effect then. It probably just the Newcastle effect, would you say?
A bit of both. I mean, the thing, Newcastle are a quality side. Like, they have quality players. But at the same time, it's almost like we show them too much respect. Because as I'll tell you later on, we tend to just sit back now and just wait for something to happen rather than trying to do something.
But you've got so much quality going forwards, and one of the players that you mentioned there, Richarlison, was signed from Everton, wasn't he? And I know that they were pretty naffed off that he left the club.
Yeah.
What have you made of him so far?
Personally, I really like Richarlison, and I think he gets a bit of a hard stick from Spurs fans because, number one, he's playing a lot on the right, and that's really not his position. This is Tottenham for you. He plays mainly on the left or the middle. Everton and Watford, we bring him and we stick him on the right. So for me, it's like, well, I don't know why you're expecting him to perform so well because he's playing out of position. I know he can play across all three, but if you want the best out of him, you play him in the middle or on the left.
Yeah.
And the games when Son, like he played over Son, for example, he came on for Son because he was playing on the left or in the middle. He looked a lot better. But obviously, Conte's just not going to drop Kane or Son. So at least when he plays a 3-4-3. So he's been playing on the right a lot. And yeah, I like him a lot. I think there's a player there. But I think with him, you need to use him correctly. And I think also at the same time, like when we brought Son in the first instance in the first season, he only scored, I think, 2 goals or something.
Yeah.
We need to give him time. And there's an issue in the Spurs fan base for me at the moment is people always want to compare Richarlison with Son. And it's like they trying to protect Son by knocking down Richarlison. That's what I mean, that sort of thing. And personally, I don't like it because, I mean, it's a bit unfair on Richarlison partly, and it's just I don't understand it. Personally, I don't get it.
Of course, 2 players there that you mentioned. Harry Kane, we know what he can do. He's England international. And then, of course, Son. And I remember, and I think it was our 3rd season in the Premier League, there was that 4-1 win where, let's be fair, the 2 of them linked up beautifully together, and we know what they can do. Has their link-up play this season been as good as that?
No. No. So Kane this season, his all-round play has not been that great. From observations, I think he's lost the yard as well. His passing was just not being as accurate and crisp either. And obviously, Kane tends to drop off and play these passes. But it's partly to do with the fact that he is playing a bit higher up because Conte wants him to play as like a number 9. But obviously that brings another issue in the fact that Kane under Mourinho, for example, played a lot deeper, and Kane and Son's link up for me was like the best. Like even under Conte last season, I think Mourinho's Kane and Son was like my favorite, or in my opinion, the best as a connection. In terms of Son, I mean, this is going to cause a lot of problems, but Son this season has honestly he's really not been that good at all. Apart from that 20-minute spell against Everton when he got a hat-trick, and I think he got a couple goals the other day. I can't remember who it was against, and he went for like a spell where he was like okay for like 30 minutes in that game. He hasn't turned up. I've got to be honest, he just hasn't turned up. I don't know whether it's to do with, again, maybe he's lost the yard as well, or the fact that Kane's not dropping as deep, or he's just, I don't know. There's no excuse really for his performance. It's just not been good enough for me. And because Spurs tend to rely on Kane and Son still the most for the goal output, it's a problem.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I've had a look at the results as well, and against the fellow top six, it's not been particularly that great this season. Including, I should. Well, you did
can bring
have
up if
sent
you
it off
want.
in that match, but yeah, against that lot, very local to yourselves.
Yeah.
What's going wrong in those sort of games? Because personally, I thought Spurs would kick on this season. And,
I think we all did. We all did.
It's a quality side. You've got a quality manager in Antonio Conte. Are the Spurs fans happy with Conte?
It's quite divided right now, actually. You'd be surprised because obviously Conte is somewhat like Mourinho in his style of play, right?
Yeah.
And the Spurs way, quote unquote, I'm not saying this is gospel as this is the Spurs way, but like Bournemouth, I guess, we're known for playing more attacking football and open football. And that's really the motto for the club, or the Spurs way, as people like to put it. And Conte plays a very defensive style with counter-attacking, and people don't tend to like to watch that. So when results are not going our way, people always like, Conte's playing too defensive, or some people have been calling for another manager, saying they can get better out what players he's got. But when you look at, for example, our wing backs, they're especially in the Conte system, they're just not good. They're just not good enough. Sessegnon for me is average. I still got to see him play like an outstanding match, and he's been at the club for about 4 years, I think now. Perisic has come in. He's done all right, but again, I kind of expect a bit more from him. We still have Emerson, who, as you know, got sent off against Arsenal. And he's just, I don't rate him at all. Doherty is another one who, for me, I actually quite like him. But if we're talking about a top team that's going to challenge for like a title or even just a trophy, I don't think he's good enough. He was decent at Wolves, but for us, he's just been average, I guess. And obviously, as you know, Jed Spencer's barely got a look in. If I was to talk about just our best players this season for you, Bentancur and Højbjerg, top two players in midfield. Bentancur for me has been our best player by a mile, and Højbjerg's he's not as elegant, I guess, but he's done his job, and for me, he's probably number 2, I guess, in terms of
Of course, it's quite interesting you say that, because one of Bournemouth's strengths is the centre of midfield.
Right.
And you've got Billing, Lerma, and Cook in there. How do you think, those 3 players could cope with the quality that you've got in that centre?
I'd say if we were to play a 3-4-3 against you guys, you have more of a chance, because in previous matches, even playing against Brighton where we won 1-0, I think earlier in the season away from home, even though, no, not Brighton game, what game was I talking about? Was it Forest? That's it, Forest. So we played 5 against Brighton. So against Forest, So we just about scraped the result in that game. But Forest were dominating possession and dominating the midfield for us like the whole game. And even though Bentancur and Højbjerg were putting in like an extra shift, when we were outnumbered, it didn't work. And I think that's when Bissouma eventually got put in the side for a while. But again, Bissouma's another one who hasn't really exactly played that well since coming in. And I'm a really big Bissouma fan, especially when he was at Brighton. But if we play a 3-4-3, I think Bournemouth have like a good chance, actually, compared to, say, if we play a 3-5-2, because I think in a 3-5-2, I think if you put in Skip or whoever else with those two, will probably have more control. You'd hope, at least.
Of course, when we talk about Spurs not playing well or not being top of their game, it's a little bit different to ourselves. And I think, personally, we have to be at the top of our game to actually get anything from this match.
Mm.
And one of the major concerns is, of course, Neto got injured against West Ham. He's going to be out for a while now. We've got Mark Travers, but other than that, we've got a guy called Will Dennis, who's the backup goalkeeper, which, although Will Dennis is a good professional and, does give his all, is he the finished article? And would you want to throw him into a game like this if anything happens?
Probably
not.
not.
No.
No.
I think, it would be sensible that, if he gets more of a run out in the Everton Cup game that's coming up, for example. But Mark Travers did a bloody good job against you a
I
couple of
remember
years
you
back.
told me.
Yeah. And it was a game where, of course, we didn't see it coming. And it was a game where afterwards I thought that he'll have had it nailed on. And of course, Ramsdale come in and took his jersey the following season. And he's now, how would you like to call Arsenal? What should we call
Scum.
them?
We call them scum. So. But
Yeah, he's there.
you know what? Like with Arsenal, it's like loads of my close friends actually support Arsenal. So when we play them, if we lose, my phone just goes mental.
Yeah.
It's like all these WhatsApp groups suddenly just. So I have to mute half of them because otherwise I'll just get at Harry this, at Harry. It's like, do you know what I mean? But yeah, Ramsdale's done all right, Arsenal, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's done a really, really good job. But of course, going back to Mark Travers, do you think he'll have in his mind the last time he played against Spurs?
Maybe. I mean, if he kept a clean sheet.
Yeah, he did keep a clean sheet, and I'll tell you what, he was outstanding on the day. I was surprised actually when Ramsdale come into the squad. Of course, that's the reason why Eddie Howe is manager, and I'm not.
Yeah, and you're not. Yeah.
But yeah, he was absolutely outstanding. That game. The other concern, though, for us is what are we going to do up top, and do Spurs struggle against the one lone man, the one target man, balls being thrown into the box? Or do they like that and struggle more against two attackers? Say, for example, if we put in Jamal Lowe and Kiefer Moore, Kiefer Moore heads it down to Jamal Lowe to put in the back of the net. Jamal Lowe does all the running. What would Spurs struggle with more?
I think because we play three at the back, I say two is probably more dangerous because with the three, I guess one of them will follow. You'd hope they'd follow the player. And then the other two would sort of sweep up and help the wing backs out. But our defense this season, I don't know if I told you this before, but I'm not a massive Eric Dyer fan at all. He tends to do these. I don't know if you saw this in midweek. He did a really stupid mistake where he chested it, and then it resulted in a goal. But and also Romero, he's a very good defender. He's probably the best of the three.
Yeah,
but he does have a rash side in him, where if he gets too angry or he lets his temper get better of him, he can do a really stupid tackle and give away a stupid foul or something. But on paper, on quality-wise, he's our best. Davies and Long, they've been covering the left side, and they're kind of rotating at the moment. I'm a Longley fan over a Davies fan, let's say, because Longley at least is more progressive with the ball.
Yeah.
And if we have more possession, and I'd expect him to play, I think, against Bournemouth because we should have more possession, really. But Davies, for me, is just like he's a solid defender, but he's just not. He's just not very good. If some divine miracle for you lot, Sanchez plays, I'm not going to be too happy. But our back three in general, I know we've kept some clean sheets and stuff like that, but I think it's more to do with the numbers rather than the quality, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And because he's playing someone like Emerson's, for example, on the right, and say like Sessegnon, who doesn't go as forward as much, is sort of as a collective, they're they might be making more mistakes, but because there's more numbers of them, the other guy will sweep it up. Yeah. So if you guys play a 2, though, I think it'll be a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. You have been in the you're in the Champions League at the moment. To be fair, that match the other day against Sporting, you should have won that. I'll say that for all Spurs fans listening out there. But how difficult is it for Antonio Conte fighting on multiple fronts? So the Premier League, Spurs fans expect Spurs to be right at the top, but of course you got the cups. You've also got everything else that's included in it. You're playing Nottingham Forest, aren't you? On the 9th of November.
Next Wednesday, I think. Not the
Yes,
Tuesday coming up, the weekend. Is it the Tuesday or the Wednesday? I can't remember.
it's the Wednesday. Yeah, it's the Wednesday. But how easy is it or how difficult is it for Antonio Conte with the players at his disposal to be fighting on all those fronts? And also, off the back of that result against Sporting, do you think there's going to be many changes?
Yeah, I do expect a fullback change for one. The changes he tends to make this season, now that all the fullbacks are back and we've got a couple extra midfielders, I think, for example, someone like Skip might get a game on Saturday. There's been talk about Brian Hill because he came on the past few games. He's actually made a very big impact.
Yeah,
I actually quite like Brian Hill. I'm a fan of his. And like I said, the fullbacks probably change, and I think Longley and Davies, like I said, have been rotating. So chances are maybe, like I said, because Davies played in midweek, Longley's probably most likely to get a start, I think, against Bournemouth. So you'd say like Longley will come in, maybe Skip will come in. There's a possibility, or Basuma. I think more so Skip. And then obviously the fullback changes. Doherty will probably play because Emerson played. I know Emerson will probably play because Doherty started. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Emerson will probably play. And then Sessegnon will probably come in for Perisic because, again, Perisic can't play that many games on the trot either. Yeah. And I don't think we'd change up top because we don't have any other options. So we have to be Kane and Son regardless. But he might play Lucas because Lucas, of course, he started in midweek and I thought he played quite well. So, but for me, I'd like to see Brian Hill play on the right and Lucas play as a wing back because I just rather not see Emerson. Honestly, I don't know if you saw this, but he did a no look pass and he went out.
Yeah,
in midweek, he came on and he did this no look, and Conte was fuming. Like what was this?
Of course, we do possess a couple of former Spurs players as well. No other than Adam Smith and Ryan Fredericks, of course. What do you make of them?
So my dad was a massive fan of Ryan Fredericks, and he was, for me, when he came through, I actually did kind of like him because our fullbacks at the time were like Carl Norton and other players like that, and I think he could have, with a run of games, maybe done more in a Spurs shirt. With Adam Smith, I don't even remember Sherwood brought him through at Tottenham.
Yeah.
But we only saw, like I said, like 1 or 2 games of him, so we didn't really see enough. But as you told me before, he's done really well at Bournemouth. So.
Oh, he has. He was part of that promotion.
It's ironic when you compare those fullbacks to the ones we have now. You won't see a lot of Spurs fans say no to Adam Smith.
And of course, we've got to give him a mention. We have to give this man a mention as well. Mr. Harry Redknapp, what a job he did at Spurs, and a lovely, lovely man as well. Go on, I'll let you tell us all about Harry at Spurs.
I love Harry Redknapp so much. He's probably one of my favorite ever Spurs managers. On the side, like I do really like Conte as well, but Redknapp for me is probably my number one, and I'm not actually joking, by the way. So when he was at Portsmouth, I really wanted to come to Tottenham, and when he eventually came, I was like, yes. And it's just like he's just a very honest bloke, and he just loves football. I think he just loves talking about football. and I just love him. I think he's brilliant.
Yeah,
He took us to the Champions League, and I guess he kind of played more the Spurs way, more attacking, open football. And for me, we're talking aesthetically in terms of just watching football. For me, if I was to watch an old Spurs game, I'd probably pick a Redknapp game because we played such open attacking football, and it was brilliant to watch at times. Yeah, especially in his last season, even though we fell apart until the end. I think we played a game against, was it Wigan? I think on my birthday or something. And there's this one goal, I think, when Lennon and Bale and Van der Vaart all link up. And like, I think Lennon lays it off and Bale does this like shot on the top. It was just, some of the football we played on the Redknapp was brilliant to watch.
And there was another manager who has recently departed this football club, who is, would you say he's a Spurs legend?
Not really.
Well, there we go.
He's only at Tottenham for about 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
But it's because he was part of Redknapp's side with Modric. He played with Modric. And Parker and Modric had a very good sort of chemistry or understanding.
Yeah.
And because Parker would just sweep up and do the holding work. We used to play a 4-4-1-1 back then.
Yeah.
And then Modric would just do his thing. And Parker just did for 1 year. He was unbelievable for us, actually. But yeah, and I think Parker's a very well respected sort of football person. I think I don't know anyone who does hate him or something. Like, you may not like him as a manager, but you don't hate him as like a person, I guess.
Oh no, most definitely not.
Yeah.
I think, as a person, he's a lovely guy. I think, at the end, why it all was what he come out and said after that Liverpool game, and with such a young squad of players, if you was to listen to that on the radio or see it on Match of the Day afterwards, you're going to think, my word,
what the hell? Yeah.
My head's hit the ground. I'm sure coming home and if the players had heard that beforehand, I'm sure that it was probably not particularly the nicest of atmospheres as well. Coming home,
I was
from
quite
that.
surprised when I heard that, actually. Yeah,
he's always seems very positive, and the speech he gave against Nottingham Forest after that game was, brilliant. It was a brilliant speech. During that game at half time, what he come out with, again, the club have made a video of it, so it shows that it was good. He shows that it was good, but unfortunately, sadly, it just didn't seem to work for him, and I think it's probably echoes what the Fulham fans were warning us
about what he was like.
Yeah, of course, with Mitrovic as well. But yeah, Spurs I would class as a top 6 side.
I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And I personally think these are all bonus games. Would you say, though, games against the other top 6 at the moment, or other top 5, would you say they're bonus games for yourselves, or would you say those are the games, or who would you say is right? Okay, they're the teams that are out in front of us, and these are the teams that we need to be beating to get ourselves up to. I'm guessing you go into third, even the title, really, which would be nice. I'm sure.
Might be far away from the title, but you don't
Well,
know. Yeah.
you say that, but there was, of course, that Leicester season where you did push them all the way, and I know you probably don't want to be reminded of that, but it looked for long periods that Spurs were just waiting there, lurking just to jump. And
we missed our shot. I think we had 2 chances, I remember, to go top against West Ham away. We lost, and then Arsenal straight after we drew, and that was it for me. I was like, we're not going to win the title after that. But for me, I think the way I look at it is that, with no disrespect, of course, we need to be beating the teams outside the top 6. Like, we need to get 3 points against them, and then with the 5 above us or around us, however you want to see it, a point is a good result, even in some instances where we're at home.
Yeah.
And then if you do all that, you kind of not guaranteed top 4, but you're kind of in it, really. So yeah. But Spurs are funny, right? So last season we'll lose against like a smaller side, and then we'll go and beat Man City. I don't know if you remember this. We lost back-to-back home games against Wolves and Southampton, and we went and won at City, which was completely out of the blue. So we don't make any logical sense. So it's like we could easily lose to Bournemouth. It wouldn't surprise me, and then we'll go and win against like a Liverpool the week after or something. It just doesn't make sense. But
what do you need to do to make that next step? Because throughout, well, in the 37 years I've been here on this earth, Spurs.
yeah.
And
Okay, I'm 30. Don't worry, I'm 30. So
I don't mean to be horrible about this, but Spurs are a great club, but you're always seeming to be the nearly men. I hope you don't hate me for saying
no.
You're always
We Spurs fans say this as themselves. So I won't hate you for saying it. We say this ourselves.
Yeah. But you get so close and you think, this is Spurs' year. And then it's like, oh, no, maybe not then. Maybe next year. What is missing? What's missing?
Investment. I know it sounds crazy coming from someone like me to someone like you, but investment. You find Spurs every summer will tend to leave out certain positions, not strengthening, and we leave ourselves short. For example, a creative midfielder, Eriksen's left 2-3 years ago. I don't know. We still haven't really bought a player to replace him. We brought in Lo Celso and Ndombele, but again, they haven't replaced him really. Lo Celso was a really poor buy in the end. And they did loan him out, and fingers crossed the team buys him. But might have problems when those two players come back in the summer. And as of course, it took us 7 years to buy like a backup striker for Richarlison, and so it's just we just not as a club. Spurs are not proactive.
Yeah.
And yes, we did sign those players earlier last summer, but again, we didn't really push on from that. We had the debacle with Spence, which lasted like a month or two to sign a player that Conte is not even using.
Yeah.
Which raises a lot of alarms, I would say. But it's just our transfer business is just not the same level as the other five, I'd say. Like even Newcastle now, I think they've done some really good business. And you look at Arsenal again, they bought 3 or 4 players that fit their system. Like Zinchenko's come in, they've got depth at left back now. They brought in Jesus, they needed a striker. They had Nketiah as well as a backup, I guess. Now, like they bought players that fit the system, and so it's settled more. And of course, City are just completely different.
Yeah.
Liverpool, I think they do buy well, but I'm not a big fan of Nunez. I've got to be honest. I don't think he fits their style at all. But again, Liverpool were willing to go that extra mile. They bought Van Dijk for 80 million, Alisson for, was it 75, 80 million? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Spurs don't do signings like that. We might do the 30, 40s or like the 60s with Richarlison was quite surprising. But we're not willing to really say, Gvardiol at Leipzig, do you know him?
Yeah.
So if you wanted Gvardiol last summer, you'd have to pay £80 million. And he was supposedly our top target, according to Spurs journalists. But no, we didn't do it. So
yeah.
That's the extra step that Liverpool made that we just don't make.
Yeah.
Just the extra big, even if it's like 2 or 3 big players, we just don't seem to do it.
Yeah. Well, there we are, Bill Foley. There's the name for you to remember. I don't think he's going to come here. Don't worry. Don't worry. I think you might have another attempt in.
Gvardiol. Well, he's going to go to Chelsea if you believe rumours.
Yeah. I don't think he's. Well, you never know. He might like the beaches down here.
Yeah.
He might opt. Yeah.
But maybe Bournemouth are at the stage sort of before Spurs are at, in terms of if you guys manage to stay up and then build upon, and if this owner's willing to invest, obviously it might take 5 years or something to get into within that, say might be top 7 before you know it, top 8 sort of fights for the top 4 spots. It might take a few years, but because you guys are willing to build a new stadium as well. But how many thousands is Bournemouth again?
It's 11,000.
It's how much?
11,000.
11,000. See, we had a 36,000 and we've gone to like a 60 something. But is the owner planning to make like a massive boost, like 50k or something, or?
I
40K
don't
or?
know. I reckon it's probably going to be around the 25,
Oh, okay.
26,000
I
mark.
thought it was.
But
So
yeah,
yeah.
I don't think we're going to go that mad, to be honest.
Okay.
But you
Okay.
never know. You never know. We have got quite a big catchment area, if you think. We've got the whole of Dorset. The only club around us is Southampton. We've got pretty much all of Somerset as well, which Yeovil's just recently dropped out the league, and a bit of Devon as well that we could probably tap into. So yeah, there's plenty. There's plenty of opportunity there. Plenty of opportunity.
Yeah, yeah.
So
To nick some fans. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
but no, because when I was listening to you guys talk about him before on your
Mhm.
stream when I came on that day,
Yeah,
you were speaking about him taking over, and I was like, is this guy going to be like some massive investor or something? And Bournemouth are going to do a Newcastle, go from like trying
it's qu-
trying to
it's
stay up
quite
to just
interesting
yeah.
because I watched the other day some footage that was on Fox 5 News in Las Vegas,
Oh wow,
and
okay.
what he was actually saying about the investment that he was making in the Las Vegas Golden Knights. Now, I know very little about ice hockey, but
I
um,
don't know anything either, mate. So it's not a problem.
but it's quite exciting that he is determined that he wants to be in the mix, and if he's not going to be in the mix, he's going to do something to get himself in the mix.
Interesting.
So
That's interesting.
it's exciting times. It's exciting times. It's not all fully complete as yet, but yeah, it's pretty much done. He was there at the Leicester game. I think the final, well, the penultimate question, shall we say? Because I have got one more that Spurs fans might absolutely hate me for, but
All right.
I'll keep that stored up there for the
Yeah.
moment. But
Okay.
how do you think it's going to go tomorrow?
As it's Tottenham, it won't be easy. It won't be an easy watch. Um, I'm sure I'll be screaming at my laptop or wherever I watch it from tomorrow. I kind of expect this sounds a bit out of the ordinary, but I kind of expect Bournemouth to have most of the possession, at least in the first 30 minutes,
Mm,
because we tend to start very slow. And for some reason, we have to concede a goal for us to wake up. So if you guys take the lead, you see Spurs suddenly decide, oh, we've got to do something now. We've got to be proactive now because
yeah,
we're a very reactive side, and it's
yeah.
sort of it's like a metaphor for the club as well. I think we're quite reactive, but yeah, I don't expect us to have most of the possession either, unless we go with a 5-man midfield.
That
Yeah.
would be quite interesting because we have got one of the lowest possessions and we've got one of the lowest shot
So
counts in
as
the
Mark
whole
Cousin said
league.
on my one, it's going to be two
Mhm.
teams trying to sit back.
Well, exactly. I think,
Yeah.
I think this could be, yeah. If you put a score on it, how do you reckon?
I think my heart says 1-0 Tottenham, but I think it's going to be like a 0-0 draw or something like that.
Do you know what? I would take a draw here and now.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably in my heart. If we win the game somehow, um, you know, it would be remarkable. And
Mm.
it would be the first scalp of the season so far, so to speak. And of course, under Eddie
It
Howe,
wouldn't
we had a lot
surprise
of
me
them.
because we just don't. This season, I haven't seen us really, apart from the first game where in the second half we tore apart Southampton and beat them
Yeah.
4-1. I haven't seen us really, again, in that game, we need to concede a goal, but I haven't seen us come out and really dominate a team and win a game like 3 or 4-0
Mhm.
and be comfortable. Even the Everton game, we scored quite late the second goal, and then I finally got to breathe for like 10 minutes. But and also Conte is very safe. He plays it very safe, so he won't push on so much to get another goal. So if we take the lead, I still don't
Yeah.
expect us to start playing like fantasy football and start trying to be very attacking. But
Are we
you never
playing you
know.
at the
Maybe we'll
right
finally wake
time?
up tomorrow. I don't know. It's been like 10 games almost.
Here's a question, because are we playing you at the right time of the
Probably.
season?
Yeah,
Because
probably. Mm.
when we look at the other games against Liverpool, probably caught them on possibly the worst possible weekend that we could do. They were still seething, and they come back to beat us 9-0. And to be fair, that's probably the only time they've played that well all season. Um, with regards to Southampton as well, they got a draw against West Ham. Had that been a little bit earlier in the season, I think we could have done something against them. Yeah, I would be happy with a draw, but I think the head is saying a defeat, and probably a 2-1 or 3-1 defeat as it stands at the moment. Right, the final question, and this is a
Yeah.
horrible question to have
Okay.
to ask,
Okay.
and you know what it's probably going to include. How pissed off are Spurs fans going to be if Arsenal actually do it? Or do you think they'll blow it?
Personally, I don't think Arsenal will do it. I think
You
Man
think
City
they'll
have way
blow it?
too much for everyone else. I think they'll finish in the top 4 though. I'll say that.
Mhm.
Unless their form starts to tail off, because I know they lost last night to PSV.
Yeah.
So, and they've had a bit. They drew to was it last Southampton?
It's
Was
that
last week?
horrible lot. Yeah, that
Well, they're
horrible lot.
starting. Maybe starting the wheels kind of start coming off. I don't know, but like I still see them finishing in the top 4 because I think
Yeah.
Liverpool this year have had a massive drop off,
Mhm.
and which I kind of expected because Mane for me was like a better player than Salah, and I thought he'd
Yeah.
be a big loss. And like I said, I'm not a massive fan of Nunes, so it doesn't surprise me that it's not working out for them as much this season. And I think top 4 is probably wide open, as like we said with Newcastle as well being in it.
Mhm.
And Chelsea again under Potter's, they had a bit of a resurgence, I think. But no, if they did do it, I'd probably like switch off my phone for about 2 weeks or something.
There we are. If nobody can get hold of Harry at the end of the season, you know what has happened.
Arsenal won the title.
Yeah.
But no, I don't. I really, honestly, it's not saying as a Spurs fan, but I honestly don't see them winning the title. I really don't.
Nah, that's fair enough. And you never know. I'm sure the whole of the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, it still feels weird calling it that.
Yeah,
Will
we
be
know we're in
absolutely.
talks with Google to get them to sponsor the stadium.
Are you?
Yeah,
There's
it's only 25 million a year, but it's not been finalized yet. Also, Uber Eats, we're interested. FedEx, all these kind of companies.
See,
Yeah,
it's an impressive stadium. It's an
yeah.
amazing
But
stadium.
imagine Google Stadium. There's gonna be so many memes about Tottenham, like googling trophies and stuff like that. I wouldn't mind Uber Eats because maybe I'll get another discount on Uber Eats.
Well, yeah.
So if they sponsor us, Spurs fans get an extra discount. Yay,
Yeah,
please.
send us a code.
Yeah.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, Harry.
And thanks for having me
And
on. Yeah.
finally,
Again.
before you
Yeah.
go, you
Yeah.
better tell everybody where they can find you. And I'm going to make you full screen for this.
All right. Okay. So if you want to find me moaning about Tottenham, it's Hotspur TV, and also you want to follow me on Twitter, is at Hotspur92.
Thank you so much for coming on, Harry, and all the best for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Not
you'll
tomorrow,
get
I'm gonna say.
not tomorrow. Yeah, you beat
Yeah.
me to it. Not tomorrow, but yeah, I'm hopefully you can get yourself out of that Champions League group, and yeah, you never know. Win some silverware. The Champions League would
Fingers
be nice,
crossed.
wouldn't
It's
it?
been too long.
It'd be nice, wouldn't it? The Champions League if you can do it.
I mean, we got to the final, but that was a forgettable final, put it that way.
Yeah. Well, hopefully Conte can get you there again and get you the right result this time. It'll be good. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on, mate.
And thanks for having me on again. Yeah.
A pleasure, mate. Thank you.
Take care.
And thank you, everybody, for joining me on this opposition preview show. Please do remember to hit the like, the subscribe, and the bell button below to be alerted to any new videos we do here on Up the Cherries in all departments. Please do also check out our latest interviews. Of course, check out Mark Housey talking about VAR, but we've also had the likes of James Hayter, Lee Bradbury, Sean Teal, Paul Mitchell, Vince Bartram. They've all been on here. And of course, you Spurs fans, you've got to watch our interview with Harry back from March last year. It is a long one. We did also do an opposition preview show with Harry, or a special pre-season preview special thing. So please do watch that as well. Do remember though to hit that like, that subscribe, that bell button, and spread it around all your social media as well. But until next video, up the cherries, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for joining us.